Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is June 14th, 2025, and today we're going to be talking about some transfers between other clubs that could generate some money for Barcelona. Also, Pablo Torre is not open to a loan, so I'm going to tell you what Barcelona are considering. And finally, Perisic, it looks like PSV Eindhoven are pressuring to keep him. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and of course, now that it's summer, all we can talk about is the summer transfer market, because not only do we have to monitor the market for players that Barcelona could be offloading or could be signing, but we also have to monitor the market for other players that Barcelona still own a percentage of their rights, because that's another way that Barcelona could earn money during this summer. They've already earned money off the transfer of Alex Baye, 6 million euros to Como. They made money 10 million euros, 8 million euros from the transfer of Todibo from Nice to West Ham, because they own some percentage of his rights. And now another chance to make more money, and that's through Abde, because ladies and gentlemen, it looks like Abde is headed from Real Betis to Como, to Cesc Fabregas' Como, who paid the 6 million euros for Alex Baye, and now they're willing to pay, they're saying, between 18 and 20 million euros for the Moroccan winger. And of course, Barcelona do own 20% of the rights of the player. So once this move is completed, Barcelona will make around 4 million euros from the transfer of Abde, which, by the way, when Barcelona offloaded him to Real Betis, they owned 50% of his rights, but Barcelona forego 30% of those rights in exchange for Real Betis releasing Vitor Roque to Palmeiras. So we could have easily earned 10 million euros off this transfer, but instead we're gonna earn only 4 million euros. And yet Deco said, hey guys, we only paid 30 million for Vitor Roque. Turns out that was a lie. We found out that Barcelona also paid an extra 10 million euros in taxes that was owed by Atlético Paranaense to the Spanish government. So that makes it 40. Now we found out that we're gonna miss out on 6 million euros because of the percentages that Barcelona forgo for Vitor Roque. So that puts us at 46 million euros. 46 million euros for a player to come to Barcelona, sit on a bench for 6 months, and then leave. That's absolute insanity. And people say, I hate Barcelona. I'm not a true fan because I criticize when Barcelona does these kind of things. Really, I'm not a true fan. I'm not a true fan because I'm mad that someone like Deco spent my club's money, 46 million euros, on a player to sit on a bench for 6 months. That makes me, a hater or not a true fan, because you should be angry too, my friend. This club is barely hanging on by a thread, financially speaking. They're barely keeping their head above water. And here comes someone like Deco, spends 46 million euros of the club's money for a player to sit on the bench and then leave 6 months later. If you're not outraged, I don't know why, but I sure am, and I think you should be too. Anyways, let's move on to the next bit of news, because another player that Barcelona own a percentage of is Trinka, who had a pretty good season at Sporting CP. And many clubs in Europe are now interested in him, including Arsenal, Manchester United, and also Bayern Munich. And it's reported that they are willing to pay upwards of 40 million euros, which, of course, if it happens, that would be huge for Barcelona, because Barcelona own 50% of the rights of the player. So that's 20 million euros for Barcelona if this goes through. What's the problem? The problem that Sporting CP want to keep Trincao. In fact, they have offered him the number 10 jersey. And they even want to offer him a contract extension. They want to keep him at all costs. We'll see what happens if they do end up keeping him at all costs. Of course, that means that Barcelona will not make any money. But if he does make a move, which hopefully he does, that means some good money for Barcelona's pockets, which Barcelona will need, especially to register the signings that they have already made, and especially if they're going to pay that 58 million euro release clause for Nico Williams. Now, another player that Barcelona also own a percentage in is, of course, Oscar Mingesa, where there's been a lot of talks. He might move to this club. He might move to that club. Celta Vigo like, no, we want to keep him. But, well, it looks like he could be on the move, because, after all, despite Celta Vigo wanting to keep Oscar Mingesa, of course, they cannot reject the offers that they could receive for him, because, after all, that's the thing about smaller clubs. for as much as they would love to keep certain players, when someone comes in and offers them a lot of money, they have to accept it because, of course, they need it in order to, stay alive, because their profit share is not as big as someone like Barcelona. And it's reported that the most recent club to eye Oscar Mingesa is Marseille. They have very heavy interest in the former Barcelona right back, and they're saying they're willing to pay his release clause, which is worth 20 million euros. And of course, Barcelona own 50% of the rights in Oscar Mingesa, so that's another 10 million euros if this move becomes a reality. Now, on to that next bit of news, because we do have to talk about Pablo Torre, because it looks like the player is not open to a loan. Now, Pablo Torre, who barely got any minutes this past season, I think it was around like 328 minutes, where despite playing very little, he scored 4 goals, provided 3 assists, so not bad at all. But Pablo Torre is considering leaving because, of course, he wants more minutes. The plan was to extend his contract. His contract currently expires in 2026, so the plan was to extend his contract, then send him out on loan to an important team where he can get minutes, develop, grow, become a better player. But it's reported that Pablo Torre is open to extending his contract. However, he's not open to a loan because he considers that usually teams who have loan players, they prefer the players who they actually own over the loan players. So Pablo Torre is afraid that he gets loaned to another club. He's not going to get the minutes that he wants. So as such, Barcelona are now considering permanently transferring Pablo Torre, while at the same time reserving a clause, a buyback clause, in case Pablo Torre does, end up living up to the expectations or, ends up reaching his full potential. Then Barcelona can activate that clause and bring back Pablo Torre to the club. Now, we've talked about all the clubs interested in Pablo Torre. There are plenty of clubs in La Liga, including, Sevilla, Valencia, Osasuna, you name it. So he will have plenty of options. And of course, right now, Pablo Torre is playing the Under-21 European Championship. So right now, he's focused on that. Plus, it's reported that Barcelona are not going to look to offload him until after the championship because they kind of have hope that maybe, he absolutely kills it and his value goes up, and then that way Barcelona could make more money. So we'll have to wait for the championship to be over to see where Pablo Torre's next destination will be. Now, we will end today's video with the news that Perisic, who offered himself to Barcelona, who's willing to come to the club as a free agent with a very little salary, looks like PSV Eindhoven want to make it difficult because difficult for Barcelona if Barcelona decide to go after him, because PSV Eindhoven right now want to keep Perisic. They have offered him a contract renewal, and they want to put pressure on him and try to convince him to stay with them, which of course would hinder the plans of Barcelona if Barcelona decided to sign him, which for now, that is not the case. Barcelona are aware of Perisic's offering. He is kind of like on a list of considered players, but he's no way he's a priority or anything like that. He's more of an emergency signing in case nothing works out. Barcelona cannot sign Rashford or Nico or Luis Diaz or anyone, and then it's the final days of the market, and they're like, all right, fine, we'll bring Perisic, kind of like a short-term solution type of thing. But right now, they're not considering it, and PSV Eindhoven, again, will be looking to put pressure on the player to try to convince him to renew with them. Anyways, that is all the news for this video. I did upload another video a few moments ago, so make sure you check it out. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, Bizka Barça.